Welcome to Maximus Live, episode 66. I can't believe we've done so many of these. Happy Thursday, May 26th, everyone. And we're coming to you live in our offices in beautiful sunny Santa Monica, California. So for those of you who are joining us for the first time, looks like we got some folks joining us on Instagram Live. Hey Curry, hey Ross, thanks for joining us. Thanks to everyone joining us on Twitter Spaces, YouTube Live, and now Zoom. So we have some folks who are members of our community joining directly on Zoom so that they can do a live Q&A. I think we have one person who's scheduled. Hopefully they will join soon. But in the meantime, we like to start each week with a unpopular opinion. And then I like to do Q&A for the rest of the time in terms of providing people with health coaching. So for those of you who are joining us on Instagram Live, you can feel free to type your questions. If you want to share the stream, you can also do that as well. Hey, Hans. So this week's unpopular opinion, I should say, comes from an email I got from one of our prospective members. And they were asking about whether they can not pay for the health coaching that's part of our Maximus King Protocol, if they can not pay for ongoing doctor consultations. They're like, just write me the script and leave me alone. And I wrote him actually a long email about why that's a bad idea on multiple fronts. And so the overall opinion that I wanted to share is every person is responsible for their own health, but you shouldn't be your own doctor and you shouldn't be your own coach. That's my unpopular opinion. So let me tell you more about my philosophy of why that is. So there's an interesting change that's happened in the era of what I call Dr. Google, right? Back in the day, doctors of all sorts, physicians, dentists, psychologists, optometrists, they were almost godlike in that they had obviously the knowledge and expertise within their domain, and you look to them as their authority because you didn't know shit about why your eyeball is red and do you have an infection or did you just rub it the wrong way, right? That's the doctor's job to tell you that. In the era of Google, obviously people search their own symptoms and they play differential diagnosis in terms of trying to figure out what's wrong with them. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with that, in that sometimes obviously you want to maybe even triage and figure out it's worth going to the doctor or not. But I think the pendulum's almost swung too much to extreme in that folks that are particularly anxious, every time you Google something, you think you have cancer is the running joke amongst doctors. Or they'll come in and be like, I'm convinced I have this, or I want this particular treatment that may not really be right for them, and they don't really understand the pros and cons of it. And sometimes can actually be quite pushy in a way that's not that doctors are trying to deny them what they want, but that it's not even necessarily in their best interest because I don't know, they read a Reddit thread and who knows who posted that on Reddit. Maybe it's some biased source that's trying to shill that particular thing. So my response to him was a couplefold. Was one, part of what he was trying to do was try to piece out the parts of our protocol and say, can I get it cheaper? And I was like, look, we try to provide the maximum benefit for the least amount of money. So our goal is not price, it's ROI. It's a return on investment. What we're trying to provide you is the best service possible for what we're providing you. So for instance, we could save, $20 a month if we didn't provide our proprietary pharmaceutical supplement. But the reality is most people, for instance, are vitamin D deficient. Almost nobody takes the proper amount of vitamin D because this is the downside of playing, Dr. Google or being your own doctor or coach. You don't know the right amount to take. Even if the people who are relatively highly informed, there's very few people I've met who actually really, really understand proper vitamin D dosing. It's because you're not a clinician scientist. There's actually a lot of misinformation out there. Even the associations don't put out the appropriate recommendations, and most people don't lab test like we have in validation studies, so they know the right amount to take. Now, if we took that out of the protocol, we could save you money, but you're not going to get as good results. So we try to balance, obviously, sometimes we're going to add costs to our protocol, but it's in your interest to provide a better service to you. So the message I told him was don't bargain shop for your health. Now, there's certain things that it makes sense. Like if you're talking about luxury purses or luxury cars, does having a $200,000 car make a difference over a $100,000 car? Maybe even a $50,000 car? Not really. You're just paying for the brand, the looks, speed, etc. But functionally, it's going to get to you from A to B in the same place. Now, with health, food, supplements, that's not the case. Paying for quality really, really matters. I'll give you, take supplements for example. We were just talking about vitamin D. Consumer Reports does analyses of hormonal over the counter supplements, including melatonin and vitamin D. They're completely mislabeled. Especially you buy those cheaper brands on Amazon, most of whom are like produced in China with very little quality control. You're not even taking the dosage that's on the label. That's why there's very few supplement brands that I trust. The rare brands that we work with, like Designs for Health, are very high quality, and they're more expensive. But they're more expensive because at least they're giving you what they promise with ensuring purity. While you buy cheap Chinese sourced Amazon junk, it's completely impure. It's the wrong dosage. Sometimes it's too high. Sometimes it's too low. You have no idea what you're getting. So you really do get what you pay for in health. And there's no such thing as like premium healthcare, by the way, anyway, outside of like some very niche concierge practices, which is less than like 1% of healthcare. The reason that some doctors charge more is because, quite frankly, they're usually better, right? The reason that better private practitioners charge more is because they're the top people in their field. And people don't get into medicine for the most part for money. Certainly, they don't go into psychology for the money, I'll tell you that. And so when people charge more, you are usually getting better care, better service. There's no Gucci or Prada here where you're paying for a brand name for the most part. If someone is famous outside of like being a TV kind of doctor, they're famous for a reason. They're a medical school professor for a reason. They've written a book for a reason because they're usually a credible expert in the field. So don't ever bargain shop when it comes to your health or your healthcare practitioner. You really do pay what you get for. You get what you pay for. And we do the same thing with our protocol. So I think I kind of disavowed him of that thinking of mentality where you're trying to bargain hunt and be like, I want this, but I don't want that. And we're like, no, the reason we include all of that, including the health coaching, I told him, look, the health coaching that we provide, including this radio show, is free. It's a bonus. We don't even consider that part of our expenses. I do this as almost like pro bono. So if you don't want to do the coaching, don't do the coaching. If you don't have the time or energy or willpower to do it, that's fine. But we're not going to like take it out and say, I don't want it, don't give it to me, and then charge me less, right? We're not even charging you for it in the first place. But it's a shame that even if we did charge you for it, that you're like, oh, I'm too cheap to do that because, I don't think I'm going to benefit from it. That's actually completely inaccurate, by the way. I work with the top CEOs, VCs, and some professional athletes, and I can tell you almost no one that I've worked with is completely fine-tuned and dialed in when it comes to their diet, exercise, sleep, stress, focus, and relationships. Everyone has room for improvement. Even the highest performers in the world have room for improvement. Even I have room for improvement, and I'm pretty dialed in. So it's pretty arrogant, quite frankly, to be like, oh no, I'm good. I go to the gym 3-5 times a week. I'm good. But what are you doing at the gym? Are you training like the Mr. Olympia guys? Are you training like professional bodybuilders? There's room for improvement even within your routine. So everyone can be better. And especially if you're talking about optimization, maybe you're at the 80th percentile. Does that mean you're at world class levels? Are you 95th percentile and beyond? And if you're really competitive and you really want to be the best, you should be, if quite frankly, saying, I am good, but am I the best? No. So let me go and find a coach. And that's an analogy that I like to make, is that professional athletes, even LeBron James, or the best basketball players in the world, best professional athletes, every single professional athlete has a coach. Even though they are good enough to, quite frankly, be coaches themselves, you can't see the back of your head, as I like to say, right? Even people who are literally world-class experts through playing the game for 10, 20, 30 years and beyond still benefit from having an objective third party being able to analyze them, give them feedback on form, dialing in their physical training and routine, coaching them. And so if professional athletes all have, not just one coach, by the way, not just the head coaches, even if you're not doing a team sport, they have individual coaches. They have multiple coaches. They have shooting coaches. They have defense coaches. They have head coaches. They have personal trainers. They have masseuses. They have sports psychologists. They have a multidisciplinary team that's making sure that they are the best in the world. And you don't think you need anyone, right? That's the difference between a so-called casual, as a pejorative term that people like to talk about sports fans, and people who are true professional athletes. Is true professional athletes, as confident as they are actually quite humble in that they know they need professional guidance in order to optimize their health and their well-being and their performance. Casual people think, oh, I read a lot of Google and thus I'm an expert in anything. I don't need any coaching. And I think that's such a misinformed opinion. If you're really interested in this topic, I really recommend an essay by one of the top surgeons in the country, Dr. Atul Gawande, who's a professor at Harvard Medical School. And he's a phenomenal surgeon, right? Literally world renowned professor. When Amazon and Berkshire Hathaway decided to appoint a CEO of a healthcare company, this is the guy that they tapped because they're like, who's going to transform healthcare in America? Dr. Gawande. And he literally wrote an essay, I believe it was in one of those magazines like the New Yorker, talking about how he wanted to be a better surgeon. So what did he do? He hired a coach. He found one of his old professors who was like a retired surgeon and said, just sit in the operating room, watch me perform surgery and give me feedback so I can be better. Because I've done everything I can to improve, but I can't see myself. You know what I mean? So the guy's like, sure, absolutely, he's a good friend of his. And so he sat out in the operating room, watched him, and he's like, hey, you're really good. And there's a couple things you could be doing better that you're not maybe even aware of. And Dr. Gawande said, after he listened to those tips, incorporated his advice, he's like, I became a better surgeon. And it blew his mind. He's like, look, we have coaches in every other domain, when it comes to, nutrition and exercise. Why don't we do this for work? Why don't we have professional coaches of someone who is older, better, more experienced, more skilled than you, watching you work and telling you how to be better? And so he really makes a very cogent, beautiful argument for why coaching is so important. Now, obviously, you want a competent coach. Coach is kind of a meaningless term outside of sports. Anyone can call themselves a coach, health coach, life coach. I always think it's bullshit. Hire a legitimate licensed expert in that field, like, for instance, a registered dietitian nutritionist if you're looking for, true nutritional advice, and someone who's actually follows the scientific literature. If you're looking for mental health help or executive coaching, make sure you hire a licensed mental health professional, psychologist or psychiatrist, so on and so forth, so that people who are properly trained, follow state and national licensure and ethical guidelines, and that what they're doing is legitimate, their background check, they're not a felon, etc. So that's why my take-home message is you are responsible for your health, right? In the end, your body, your health, your well-being, and being around for your family is your responsibility. So you should educate yourself. You should Google stuff when you're sick. You should read as much as possible. You should listen to podcasts. You should go talk to experts to inform yourself as much as possible and make good choices for your health. But don't delude yourself into thinking that you know more just because you watched a Netflix documentary called What the Health, that now you found the answer to nutrition despite comparing yourself to someone who's spent their entire life in that field, right? So what I would say is I still think a healthy respect of expertise and authority, even though this is the age of anti-authority, is useful. As long as you follow the right people, you have the right doctors, and it's not, in my opinion, too hard to understand who's good and who's not, based on their education, training, and legitimacy. So I do think you should still work with great doctors. You should still find a good coach to work with you, because even if you're a doctor or even if you are a professional athlete, doctors and athletes still use their own doctors and therapists and coaches, right? So we all still need our own doctor and our own coach. Don't play doctor, don't play coach. But in the end, you use all these experts, and you should use all these experts to improve your health and be responsible for your own health. So that's the dialectic. That's the nuance that I encourage. Is yes, individual responsibility is always paramount. You have to be the king of your own kingdom and be your own man. But at the same time, don't be such a man, or a stereotypical sort of immature man, I should say, that you think, oh, I don't need anyone's help. I know everything. I never want to listen to a doctor. And unfortunately, that's like the old Marlboro man stereotype. Of the guy who smokes, never goes to the doctor, never listens to anyone. And those are the guys who die early, right? I think Victor, was someone asked the question of why do men die early? We can have, I'll answer that question, but I'll tell you one reason why men die early is they're often too arrogant to accept help from other people or listen to the opinion of doctors. When quite frankly, if they would do that and just do really basic stuff, go do an annual physical every year just to make sure that you don't have testicle or prostate cancer that's gonna literally prematurely kill you. If you can just do basic stuff like that, men can live, quite frankly, as long as women do. So, and women are quite frankly better at engaging at the healthcare system than men are. So I think we have to lower our egos a little bit and be like, I may be the boss when it comes to being a construction manager, but I'm not an expert on prostate health. Let me listen to my doctor about that, and I defer to their expertise. So balance your individual responsibility with some humility and respect for other people's expertises, and that way, in the end, you can always make your own decisions, right? Even if a doctor says, I recommend surgery, look, it's up to you whether you do it or not. That's the individual responsibility. But at least you can make an informed decision by listening to the experts and making your own decision in the end. But at least listen to them and get credible information before you make your decision. So that's my 2 cents. Don't play doctor or coach, but work with great doctors and coaches so that you can take informed responsibility for your own health.
We had a couple questions via YouTube. Hi, I'm from Illinois and just found out about the Maximus King Protocol. Any idea on time frame and when the service will be available in Illinois?
Yeah, that's the number one question. So first of all, actually, shout out to Illinois. I did my fellowship in Chicago at the Heinz VA there, so I have great memories of Illinois. And the answer is soon. I get asked that question a lot, and I hate that we don't have a concrete answer to that, but we are spinning up a new pharmacy that's licensed in basically every state, and we are rolling out the bigger states sooner. So Texas and Illinois, I would say, are at the top of the list, obviously being really populous states. So just stay on our email list. We'll let you know soon, but I would say in the coming next couple of months for sure, we'll be out there. So appreciate your patience.
We had another question via YouTube from SJ. The only reason for seeking hormonal testosterone supplements is to see if it would help with energy. I'm a 52-year-old, overall good health, but my level of energy has decreased. I'm going to the gym, and recently it's been harder and harder to work out and lose weight/fat around the waist.
Mm-hmm.
What's your opinion about that?
Yeah, so it actually sounds like there's 2 potential motivations for you for optimizing your testosterone. One is obviously the energy, and then the second is making sure that the effort that you're putting in at the gym, you have the requisite energy to do that. You obviously, it's a function of the effort that you put in. But second, that it's benefiting you in terms of gaining lean mass, right? That you're putting on muscle mass and you're losing body fat as well. So the good news is it can help quite a bit with both of those things. So when it comes to energy, interestingly, that's actually the number one benefit that our members report in terms of the Maximus King Protocol and what happens when they optimize their testosterone. It's a natural increase in energy. But the thing I want to really differentiate is it's a different type of energy than you get from caffeine and stimulants like Adderall or modafinil. If you really just want pure, like, awake kind of energy, there's nothing that's going to beat a stimulant, right? 2 cups of coffee is going to give you lots of energy. The reason, obviously, that's not a great or sustainable solution is, number one, all stimulants have addictive properties. Even caffeine, even though it's so ubiquitous in our society, we know from multiple cup-a-day daily drinkers, when you stop drinking it on the weekends, how do you feel? You feel like shit, right? You get flu-like symptoms, headache, withdrawal, essentially, from the fact that your body becomes dependent on it. And my philosophy is like, look, the dose makes the poison. So no drugs are like inherently, actually, technically off limits, but anything that has high addiction potential, you should be very careful about and regulate your use. So caffeine and alcohol, despite how ubiquitous they are, we have to kind of watch them. That's why I just don't generally think caffeine or amphetamines in particular are great solutions for energy. The nice thing about testosterone, though, it's a hormone. It's not a stimulant. It's not increasing your adrenaline/epinephrine. It's not a dopamine agonist like the amphetamines are. Or caffeine, which works on the cyclical AMP system. All of these are essentially focused on the brain. They're increasing levels of what are called neurotransmitters. There's these neurochemicals or brain chemicals that increase your energy. But when you do that, what happens is your energy peaks and then it troughs. So it goes up and down, and then you get that crash. This is why it's called 5-hour energy. You have energy for 5 hours, and then you feel like shit for the next 5 hours. And then furthermore, stimulants obviously negatively affect your sleep. along with alcohol, it's the two biggest disruptors of sleep in terms of going to sleep on time, but also ruining the quality of your sleep. So fixing your or addressing or optimizing your hormone levels is a really great alternative to that. And if you try our protocol, you'll likely find benefit from that if everything else is dialed in appropriately. So the reason I say that is if your sleep is shit, you're getting 4 hours of sleep a night, your stress levels are through the roof, and your cortisol is at a super physiological range. No medication is going to make you feel good, right? Now, it will make you feel better than you would without it, but you're not going to feel great. So you have to make sure that you're still addressing those other factors in your life, making sure you're getting at least 7 to 9 hours of quality sleep, and that you're regulating your stress enough that your cortisol levels are normal, because cortisol not only saps testosterone, but it really does sap your energy levels. You get that fight or flight response from the cortisol and the adrenaline slash epinephrine that's in your system temporarily, but you find that at the end of the day, when you're not running around at work or chasing after your kids, you get that crash and you're just dead, right? And so I think it's the combination of the pharmacological and the behavioral that really optimizes energy levels. You want optimal testosterone levels so you have that natural energy, motivation, and drive to go get it, as they say, but you need to make sure that you have enough rest and recovery in terms that you're not burning out, your engine with excessive stress and cortisol, and you're getting enough rest and recovery at night through your sleep. And it's the combination of, I think those are what I call the big three of energy: appropriate stress management, appropriate sleep, and appropriate hormones, including testosterone. That's what's really going to optimize your energy. So if you sign up for a protocol, we're obviously happy to provide and coach you through all three of that trifecta to make sure your energy levels are optimal. Second, you asked about, okay, you're going to the gym, you're not feeling the same energy and not getting the same benefits that you'd be expecting in terms of gains or fat loss. So our pharmaceutical is not a weight loss drug, but it can help with that. In fact, there's if you go on trustpilot.com and type in maximustribe.com, one of our members, Mark, actually talked about his experience losing weight and really transforming. I think the quote is, "It literally changed my life," on that review. He was actually obese, struggling, not getting a lot of benefit, and what he found was that increasing his testosterone increased his motivation and drive to work out, to change his diet, and then he lost a lot of weight. So that's where it can really help you in that regard, in that it'll improve hopefully your consistency for going to the gym. If you're already at the gym regularly, it'll increase your energy levels to, do more, lift heavier, and maximize your workouts, because testosterone obviously is a performance enhancer at the gym. We know from research studies that it enhances athletic or sports performance in a statistically significant way. We know that it helps increase lean mass. So people put on about 5 pounds of lean muscle in the course of 12 weeks. And if you really are concerned about fat loss, the drug is not going to increase fat loss directly. But if it gets you to take advantage of our coaching, and I have a huge background in nutrition. I helped develop the nutrition curriculum for Omada Health. We can help fix your diet in a way that will maximize your fat loss as well. So I would say our protocol is better for muscle gain than it is fat loss, I would say, in terms of going to the gym. But the fat loss is not going to come from the gym. The fat loss is going to come from fixing your diet. 80 to 90% of fat loss is really nutrition. It's not exercise. Exercise is useful for maintaining weight loss. It's not useful for losing weight in the first place. So that's my 2 cents on the benefits, and I think you could get a lot out of the program, and I'm happy to help coach you through it. In the meantime, we have someone in the waiting room on deck, so I'm going to let them in.
SJ commented, "Great information. I look forward to trying the protocol. Thank you very much."
Hey there.
Hi.
Hi, sir. How's it going?
Oh, hi. You can hear me. Hi, Dr. Cam. To go off your weight loss talk, I called in actually 3 weeks ago. If you remember, I talked about getting off going on sugar, eating sugar moderately every day a little bit.
Yes, sir. I do remember.
Yeah, that was about 3 weeks ago. So I wanted to give you an update. I promised to give you an update. And also, I'll end it by I have a general question that I think everyone will benefit from.
For sure. Well, I love to
Yeah,
hear the
so
update. So thank you for calling in again.
yeah, no worries. My update is that so every day since that time we talked about 3 weeks ago, I've been eating two. Basically, I eat a little bit of sugar every day. So what I eat is 2 items of sugar. So it's like two small items, basically, like single serving. So, for example, like two cookies, like two small cookies, basically. And that's what I've been eating. For example, or that's an example.
After your runs.
Sorry, you're a little slowed down for me.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, but it would be after my workout. Yeah.
Okay, so after your workouts, you'll have. You said like, yeah. Sorry about that. Can you hear me?
Sorry.
Yeah, I apologize if it's.
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay, hopefully that's a little bit better. So you're saying after your workouts, like when you go for a run, you'll have like 1 to 2 cookies, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It's not always cookies. I've been recently eating. I don't know if you know what Halo Top ice cream is. It's like the really low calorie ice cream. I've been doing like 1 Halo Top plus 1 cookie, and so I've been doing that for the last few days. And so I know. So I've been eating that every consistently for the last 3 weeks. I have not binged eat, so thankfully. So
awesome.
like binge eating off of sugar. So I've been able to control myself in that way. And then I know your second objective was, are you losing weight?
Yes.
And that part's a little bit more complicated. So when I called in last time, 3 weeks ago, my weight was 229.
Yep.
And today my weight is 227 to 228. That's what my weight today is. And so my weight has been kind of fluctuating up and down for a long time through those 3 weeks. So for example, the first week, at the end of the first week, I was 228. The end of the second week, I was 227. And then the end of the third week I was 224, 225. So that's every Sunday basically for the last 3 Sundays. So basically 228, 227, and 224, 225.
Yeah.
But my weight fluctuates a lot. I find every day.
When were you 224, 225?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I said when were you 224, 225?
Hello.
Hi. I said when were you 224, 225? Can you hear me?
Hi,
hello?
Dr. Cam. Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I was asking when were you 224, 225?
I was 224 just this Sunday. So just this Sunday was 224. And so my general question is, how do you deal when you do your weigh-ins every day? How do you tell if you're making progress compared to how if your weight is if it's like water weight and stuff like that? And
Yeah, it's a great question. So
I can't hear you.
Yeah, I'm sorry about the audio issues. We're doing the best that we can. I mean, I'll answer this. If you can't hear me, it'll be recorded and we'll post it afterwards. So hopefully you'll get it then. Hey there.
Oh yeah, I can hear you now. Sorry, it's cutting out a lot. I'm not sure why.
I'm not sure either, but like I said, we'll record this so you can always listen to it afterwards if you can't hear it now.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Do you have an iPhone?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Okay. And then do you have is it like a manual scale or is it like a digital scale that you can like upload the data?
It's a manual scale I'm using, not digital. I know I should probably get a digital scale though.
Yeah, so that's my recommendation to you. You can buy any like a Bluetooth scale. They're as cheap as like $20 on Amazon. They're really, really cheap these days. As long as it can upload the data to the health app on your iPhone. Doesn't matter what the brand is. If you do want a particular recommendation, like Withings/Nokia makes pretty good quality scales. Those are obviously a little bit more expensive, but they're a little bit more reliable. But honestly, any scale that uploads the Bluetooth data to your health app is what you want. And then what I want you to do after that is download an app for free called Happy Scale. And what Happy Scale does is it fixes the problem that you're talking about in terms of the variability that comes from daily weigh-in and fluctuations due to water weight or other factors. So the nice thing about Happy Scale is it takes all your data and it creates a trend line, right? And so like you were saying 229, 227, 224, 225 and then back up to 227, 228. So it'll just cut across that and be like, well, what's the trend, right? Despite the points being up or above the line, um, it'll tell you, it'll smooth out essentially the fluctuations, tell you what the actual trend is, and say, okay, over the 2-3 weeks, on average, really you've been losing, I don't know, 2 pounds or so. And if you continue with this trajectory in a month, you'll lose 8 pounds. So one, it clarifies things for you, like, are you really losing weight or not? And so it moves like, these outliers out of the way. And then second, I actually think it's incredibly motivating to be like, I lost a pound or two, doesn't feel very great. But if they're like, look, if you keep this up for the next 12 weeks, you might end up losing 12, 24 pounds. And that's incredibly motivating. So your goal then is to continue that trend line and keep up the momentum. And that can be actually very motivating to be like, man, I'm going to feel great if I lose 12, 24 pounds in 12 weeks. You want to keep that up, and you obviously want to hit that for, your end of summer goals. So that's the first thing I would say is you want to make sure that you're looking at your data in a way that's accurate and is motivating to you.
Yeah, it sounds good. Yeah, I think I'll definitely do that. So to make sure that because that is very motivating hearing that you can lose 12 pounds. If I could just keep going and stuff. And also, do you think eating the 2 pieces of sugar or two items of sugar every day, is that good? Is everything good there?
So that's a great question. That was my follow up. Is you were 229 how many weeks ago?
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago, and now what was your last weigh in? 227, 228?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, today's weigh-in was 227, 228.
Okay, so we're gonna say 227 and a half. We'll split the difference, as they say.
Okay.
227 and a half. So you basically lost 1.5 pounds over 3 weeks, right? So that's about 0.5 pound a week, which is not bad, actually. So let's assume that's your trend. And so if you obviously continue that for 12 weeks, you'll lose 6 pounds, which is not too bad. Now, I think it could be better, though. The general guidelines, especially because, how tall are you? Remind me. Did you hear my question? I think we lost you again.
I'm 6'1".
Okay, so you're 6'1".
I'm 6'1".
Yeah. So you still have some. I mean, you're a tall guy, but you still have a little bit of weight to lose at 229. So you could be losing 1 pound to 2, or even up to 2 pounds a week. That's the general recommendations that we would provide at Omada Health in terms of weight loss goals. So I think at 0.5 pound a week. Now, this is only based on 3 weeks, and like they said, it's not statistically significant because it really depends on your last weigh-in. If you told me you were at 224, 225 on Sunday, I would have been like, oh, you're crushing it, right? You've lost 4 pounds in 3 weeks, 5 pounds in 3 weeks. You're definitely within that 1 to 2 pound range, but you kind of went back up. How much of that is water weight? How much of that is food? It's hard to tell. So I would say if you track for a few more weeks, you're going to have better data. Like I said, use the Happy Scale app, but we're going to just assume, like I said, that 0.5 pound a week, there's still some room for improvement. So this is where you take the data and you really dial things in. And this is what I was telling you last time we talked about the power of if it fits your macros. So nothing is off limits theoretically under the if it fits your macros philosophy. However, it has to fit your macros in terms of your weight loss goals. So I would encourage you to really try to target to bump up the 0.5 pound to 1 pound a week, right? And it's just a nice, easy to remember, solid number. Every week you should be losing on average 1 pound consistently in terms of the trend line, right? Now, every day it's going to fluctuate a little bit. We're not concerned about that. We're concerned about the trend. What I would suggest is, look, you're eating 2 pieces of sugar every day. It's not whatever the totality of it, whether it's the other food that you're eating or the dessert that you're having after the run, you're getting half the results that you probably could be getting or should be getting if you regulate a little more. So my suggestion is this: either cut down from 2 pieces to 1, meaning either just have ice cream or just have the cookie, but not both, or have half of each, right? So if you're having,
Okay.
a whole cookie, have half a cookie. If you're having a whole, I don't know, cup of ice cream, have half a cup. And that way you can have best of both worlds. But you need to start to dial it in a little bit until you're getting that 1+ pound a week.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Kim. Yeah, I'll definitely start applying that. Yeah, it'll definitely be. Yeah, I'll probably go down to 1 item of sugar and see how that I fare well with that. Yeah, so that and I think that's a good idea. Okay, yeah, I'll try to give a call in a few weeks later, see when I have a happy scale and a digital weigh-in. I want to see. I'll let you know how things are going with
For
it.
sure.
Yeah.
And this is the teach a man to fish philosophy that I'm really big on. You understand the underlying principle that I'm teaching here. It's not that I'm an expert on cookies or ice cream. What I want to encourage you to do is to, look at your data and make adjustments, right? Just like, we're having this conversation here, is when you have that accurate data, you can start looking at it and be like, am I doing enough? Is my regimen working? Am I hitting my goals? If it is, then great. If it's not, I need to make adjustments. Or let's say in the next 2 weeks, you start crushing, you're losing over 2 pounds a week. You're like, oh, actually, maybe I can introduce more foods, right? So you may be overdoing it and you need to recalibrate back and say, actually, I can have more than I realize.
Right.
I don't need to be as strict. So really, like, be your own scientist is my ethos to everyone. Like I said, you don't need to be your own doctor or coach, but you do need to look at your data when you're working with either folks like me, in that, we're not going to talk maybe for 2 weeks or 3 weeks or so. I don't want you to lose progress. You should be weighing in daily. You should be looking at your trend line daily, and then you should be making adjustments actually daily. In terms of now,
Right.
your weight may fluctuate like randomly due to water weight, so don't make an adjustment based on that. But you should make an adjustment, obviously, in terms of, like, if you had a shit day yesterday, like, get back on the wagon the next day. Or if you feel like you're not making as much progress, see how it feels to have 1 sugar item, right? And do you feel less reward? Do you feel deprived? And if not, you're like, oh, it's fine. I had my ice cream or I had my cookie. I don't really need both from a psychological point of view. And that is an interesting behavioral experiment. Be like, look, I'm still getting the reward, right? I did my run. I feel good. I got my pleasure. But I can switch it up. I can have a different reward. Maybe Mondays are cookie days, Tuesdays are ice cream days, third days are, I don't know, sour worms, whatever you like. And that way you can have fun with it too, and still feel the reward and enjoyment that you get from even sugar or snacks, but in a way that's still in line with your goals. Awesome. So thank you so much for calling in and checking in. Obviously, feel free to do so in a couple weeks, and then let's continue the conversation on the Discord community.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you so much. And sorry for the Wi-Fi errors.
It's
sorry
okay.
about that.
No worries. Appreciate it.
Thanks, sir. Thank you.
We had a question via YouTube. I asked my primary care doctor about enclomiphene, and he had never heard about it.
Of course.
Any thoughts?
Yeah. First of all, primary care physicians are not urologists or endocrinologists. They're by definition primary care. They're not specialists in hormones, so I wouldn't expect them to know anything about it. It's not their area of expertise, right? They should refer to a specialist, just like they're not a specialist in any other organ system. So not surprising. The other thing is, obviously, enclomiphene is a relatively new drug. It's only been on the market publicly for about a year or two, even though the trials have been done for over a decade. So not surprising, but I would listen to the 3 medical school professors who are on our advisory board, Doctors Eugene Shippen, Dr. Rand McLean, Dr. Jim Hoatling, Dr. Matt Coward, actually 4 of them. We have videos of them on our YouTube channel if you type in Maximus Tribe on YouTube, and they are world's expert on them. They should answer any and all questions that you have.
Follow up. I am coming off 2 years of TRT. How long after quitting will it take for my natural production of testosterone to kickstart again?
Are you talking about if you're going um, on the Maximus protocol, we ask people who are coming off testosterone replacement therapy to stop for at least a week or two. If you take one of the longer lasting forms of testosterone, you need to come off it for 2 weeks. You'll find that your testosterone is obviously suppressed because literally your testicles have shut down, so you're not producing any of your own natural testosterone. The good thing is, Enclomiphene obviously can be used as a post-cycle therapy. We're not using it for that indication per se, but we're helping people transition from TRT to natural testosterone production. So, we usually retest people after 30 days, and we do find that people can restore their levels within 30 days, but it may take a little bit longer to get up to your maximal potential. And that may be because it needs more time for your body to kickstart, jumpstart the system, so to speak. But also, you may need a medication dosage adjustment. So, some folks, the longer and harder that you've suppressed your own production thanks to TRT, you may need a higher dosage of enclomiphene to get back online, depending on your health, your age, etc. And so, you may need a second month to be on a higher dosage and get your system to where it needs to be. So it depends. I would say 30 days minimum is the TLDR short answer to your question. Other folks, it may take 60, 90 days and dosage adjustments to really get your system back online. But the good news is we've had a bunch of folks who have switched from TRT with pretty good results. So I think it's a great solution. And like I said, as long as you and your current prescribing physician make the decision to discontinue your TRT, stop it for a week or two, and then switch to our protocol. If you qualify and our doctor thinks it's appropriate, then it may be a good choice.
You answered this via the community. Might be good to clarify for the rest of the audience. What is DIM? Would it be smart to take DIM in conjunction with the protocol or to increase testosterone in general?
Yeah, DIM is a supplement that is short for diindolylmethane, and it's billed as an estrogen blocker. But I don't think the science on that actually is very clear. There isn't a lot of scientific research that actually shows that it reduces estrogen. In fact, there's an argument that's made that DIM is actually an androgen antagonist. So if you're actually taking dosages in excess of 100 milligrams, it may actually be reducing your testosterone. So it may have sort of these dose-dependent effects, but DIM is basically a phytoestrogen, which is a plant-based estrogen. And in doing so, it may actually have some estrogenic activity. And there's some research that in fact suggests that it blocks mTOR, which is necessary for cell growth and muscle growth. So, I actually think, contrary to what people think, that DIM is an estrogen blocker and increases testosterone. No, I'm not actually convinced that it is. In fact, it may be a testosterone blocker. I actually don't think there's strong evidence that it's an anti-estrogen. In fact, it may be a phytoestrogen. And if it inhibits mTOR, it's going to negatively impact your muscular development. So I don't think it's actually a very good supplement for men to take. And I keep telling people, like, whether it's DIM or someone had a question about boron, doesn't boron reduce SHBG, increase free testosterone? There's some studies that suggest that, but that effect also may fade over time, and you don't necessarily want to lower your SHBG because although it increases free testosterone, it also increases free estradiol. People forget that part of the equation. So you're increasing both, and if you are lower on the SHBG or you're higher on the estradiol in the first place, the increase of free estradiol may mess up your mood or libido. So I don't recommend boron either. If there's a supplement that we recommend, we would include it in our protocol. If we don't include it in our protocol, it's because we don't think there's enough scientific evidence to include it. So the things that we include are vitamins A, D, E, K, and GG, all the lipid-soluble vitamins. And the new supplement that we have coming out includes a B complex for energy, zinc and copper, which is essential for hormone and testosterone production, magnesium, which is critical for testosterone production, and a little bit of saffron, which is very useful for mood and focus. Those are the things that we think are really important. We call it the building blocks for your hormones and testosterone. Everything else, I didn't find sufficient scientific evidence to include it in the supplement. Otherwise, I would. So don't recommend DIM, don't recommend boron, do recommend everything that we include, obviously, in our own supplement. So awesome. Thank you so much for the great questions this week. I love the follow-up from the guy who's continuing to lose weight, and hopefully will continue to do well. Please feel free to catch us next week, Thursday at 6 o'clock Pacific time. Be well, be happy, be healthy, and have a phenomenal rest of your week. And enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Thanks, everyone.